it does reduce the cost of school, special needs transport, and does improve overall service provision as well as delivering benefit to other areas within a local authority. There's nobody here that would not want to reduce their costs by a factor of anything from 5 to maybe 25 or 30% simply by putting a little bit more of this behind the solution that's being delivered. And it's not that we don't have the information available. What's needed to do so much of this is simple. We need our location, our addressing information, but you'll already have that. We need to know what resources we have available in terms of the vehicles and what their capabilities are, what our rules are around things like escorts and passenger assistance, what our SLAs are, what are our ride times, are there restricted routes to consider, and so on. And then finally, what are the objectives? It's easy just to say it's about budget, but there's often many other objectives, and it can often be a balance between these different things. Maybe the current service is deficient in some way, maybe the ride times are just too long. But the results can be significant, as I've said. If we look in a bit more depth at this one example, and this is very, very new, literally completed last week, a leading Catholic school, southwest of England, 573 pupils, as I've said. The initial data set from them showed that they were picking them up with 16 vehicles, 15 53-seaters and 133. With many authorities, it's a more diverse range, but this is an individual school we're looking at, and 69% utilisation. On a daily basis, they're travelling 272 miles each way to and from school, and they've got 106 stops. So on average, just over 4 pupils per stop, but that does actually vary quite considerably. And of the 16 routes, 6 of those were taking 60 minutes or longer, which was outside of their SLAs. So the first review of that kept a lot of things as it was. Still picking up the same passengers, still using 16 vehicles, changing the configuration of the fleet slightly. But most of what they do goes out to third party, so it's very easy for them to go out and to change those vehicle profiles. The utilisation naturally increased because we have fewer seats, so that's an easy win. But the total travel distance reduces by 66 miles each way per day. That's a lot of mileage and a very, very simple win, but has a very big effect. And now only 3 of the 16 routes are 60 minutes or longer, so that's been reduced by half. Now that's a simple improvement just with a first revision. Very, very, very easy to implement. And what does that look like? Well, if you look at it, the original solution and the revision, there doesn't seem to be a massive difference between the two, and no, there shouldn't be at this level. But if you look at the original solution, you've got towards the bottom, that green dot number 1, that's actually one pickup that then goes all the way through to the school, whereas you'll see on the revised run, which is now in brown, it's making several pickups. And that's the case in 2 or 3 areas on that map. So basically it's been tidied up, it's been reprofiled, but delivered already some quite easy wins. But if we go back to that original solution, then look at the second revision, then we see more change. We actually see a reduction in vehicles. So now we're not using 16 vehicles, we're only using 14. Now those other 2 vehicles can be redeployed for something else. Physical numbers can maybe be reduced in time. We can free up valuable resources for other things. Utilisation remains much as it was. Distance travel reduces again, 84 miles now in each direction, 168 miles per day, 190 days a year. You do the math on that, it's quite significant. And now still only 3 of the 16 routes are 60 minutes or longer, which they're quite happy with. Again, we could reduce those. It may mean putting another vehicle on or changing some of the other routes around. But that second revision now, if you look, it does look tidier, it does look neater. And yes, of course, we could go into it more in depth and look at a lot of the real changes on the ground. But it just feels better. So if you look at what's been achieved there, we're only talking 573 pupils, we're only talking 1 school, but we're talking about nearly £80,000 of direct savings for a study which in itself cost less than 1/10 of that to complete. And this particular work is either delivered through consultancy or through the physical applications and tools being used by the client to deliver better routes, better schedules, greater optimization. And so much of what we've done in the past has been with commercial operators like the National Expresses of this world, like the GCDAs with the government car service. And it's now we move increasingly into local authority, because what we've achieved in those areas is very relevant, particularly in today's environment. In finishing off, there's a couple of bits I just wanted to touch on. It's easy for someone like me to stand here and say, hey, look, you know, we can take these profiles, it can all be so much better. The reality is it really, really can be. And as an organisation, we are committed to working with local authorities, to working with education, to improve transport provision. The same things that you're talking about, we're talking about. It's why we attend these conferences. It's why we welcome the opportunity to speak at them. But in looking at that, as I say, it's easy for me to say that. But what we are doing, and I would invite each and every one of you to take us up on this, is talk to us. It costs nothing to talk. But going further from that, we are working on a number of studies with local authorities, with some independent schools at their requirements. And we're running, free of charge, some reviews on the scheduling, routing and planning to see where the savings can be made and how we can deliver it and how we need to go about taking that forward. So it's genuinely one example of where we can work together in partnership, which has also been a theme running through this event so far, in looking at how we can deliver those savings for you, and not in a way that we can't prove, certainly going forward. And just to finish off, it's easy coming to something like this conference. The venue is great, that's easy. We're being well looked after, great catering, so that's easy. We're talking with friends, with colleagues, with like-minded people, and what can be easier than that? And we're talking now at how we can improve our scheduling, our routing, our optimization to make some significant reductions, anything 5, 25, 30%. That's easy. But there's one thing that's easier than all of that, and it's not doing it. Now, we've got a small stand out in the refreshment area. I'd ask anyone just to come and talk to us afterwards, and let's just start working a little bit more together in taking some of this forward to the benefit of your individual organisations and authorities.